It was his daughter's birthday. But instead of celebration, 54-year-old Konrad Imirowicz was found in his Michigan home, his body covered in horrific chemical burns, his organs beginning to shut down in ways doctors struggled to explain. What happened inside that house would tear apart a family, expose years of dysfunction, and leave investigators asking one chilling question: how did a birthday party turn into a nightmare? Konrad Imirowicz lived in Pontiac, Michigan with his 3 children. His wife was no longer in the household. He had a long history of heavy drinking that repeatedly caused problems at home. Over time, his alcoholism affected daily life, caregiving responsibilities, and family stability. One of his children was his daughter, Megan, who was about to turn 18 in the fall of 2021. Megan lived in the same house and frequently clashed with her father over household needs and money. These disagreements were recorded by friends and family as recurring disputes, often centered on responsibility and access to funds. On multiple occasions, residents and relatives reported that Konrad was intoxicated and difficult to wake. He often slept through parts of the day and was unreliable with basic household tasks. When his drinking increased, other members of the family stepped in to manage essential chores and medical appointments. Megan, still a teenager, found herself carrying many of those burdens. By late September 2021, Megan was planning an 18th birthday celebration and expected some financial support from Konrad. She requested funds and access to his credit card for party expenses and a hair appointment. Konrad refused to provide the money and declined repeated requests for his PIN. The refusal escalated into a heated argument on October 1st, 2021. Witnesses later described the exchange as more than a typical family fight. It was a confrontation driven by frustration over money and care responsibilities. At the time of the argument, Konrad was heavily intoxicated, which contributed to the breakdown in communication. That confrontation became the immediate catalyst for the events that follow. Within a very short window on that same day, Megan made a decision that would lead to criminal charges and a fatal outcome for Konrad. Family members later told investigators that such fights were common and that Megan had repeatedly expressed anger about caring for an intoxicated parent. Those statements were noted during the police investigation and medical records. On October 1st, 2021, Megan was preparing for the hotel party she insisted her father would pay for. By that afternoon, she went to the basement where Konrad was lying on the couch. He was unresponsive, and when he didn't answer her demands for the bank card PIN, her frustration boiled over. At first, she threw small items to wake him, but when that failed, she reached for a container nearby, a mixture containing lye, a highly corrosive chemical. In one impulsive act, she poured it directly onto him. The effect was immediate. Konrad's skin began to blister, his face and chest turning raw. He shouted in pain, but Megan walked away, more concerned with continuing her birthday plans. Konrad remained in the basement, badly injured and alone. Hours passed before anyone realized the severity of what had happened. Later that evening, Megan casually mentioned the incident to her friend Kayla, even sending her a photo of Konrad lying motionless. Alarmed, Kayla urged her to check on him again. When she did, Konrad's body was already showing signs of chemical poisoning, his legs turning green, his fingertips purple. Kayla eventually convinced Megan to call her older brother, Austin. When Austin arrived, he found his father barely conscious, his skin peeling, the air filled with the smell of chemicals. He immediately called 911. Paramedics rushed Konrad to the hospital. The diagnosis was grim: third-degree chemical burns covering nearly a fifth of his body. His trachea and esophagus were corroded, making it impossible for him to breathe normally. He was placed on a ventilator, given dialysis for kidney failure, and underwent multiple skin graft surgeries. Over the following months, Konrad fought to survive. Doctors amputated portions of his legs in a desperate attempt to stop the spread of infection, but the injuries were too severe. On March 6, 2022, 5 months after the attack, Konrad died from organ failure directly caused by the burns. By then, Megan was already in police custody. Evidence collected at the house, combined with her own admissions to friends, left no doubt about what had happened. A teenager's outburst during a birthday dispute had escalated into a fatal crime, one that shocked even seasoned investigators. Megan's first arrest actually came months before Konrad's death. In October 2021, only days after the attack, police took her into custody on charges of assault with intent to cause great bodily harm. Investigators already had her Snapchat messages, witness statements, and photos showing her father burned and unable to move. She posted bond and was released, but the case was still open as Konrad fought for his life. During those months, detectives continued to collect evidence. The basement couch where Konrad had been found showed a white chemical residue. A lye container was recovered nearby. Forensic testing confirmed the substance matched the burns that covered his skin. Kayla, the friend who had seen him shortly after the attack, gave a detailed statement about his purple fingertips, green legs, and the PIN number she had overheard him trying to shout despite his condition. Doctors, too, provided records showing the clear medical link between the chemical exposure and Konrad's rapid decline. His trachea had been burned, his kidneys were failing, and both legs eventually required amputation. On March 6, 2022, Konrad finally succumbed to his injuries. His death certificate listed complications of chemical burns as the cause. With that confirmation, prosecutors elevated the case from assault to homicide. Within days, Megan was arrested again, this time charged with killing her father. Police emphasized that while the initial arrest covered the assault itself, the homicide charge could only be filed once Konrad had died as a direct result of those injuries. By this point, the case had already divided those who knew the family. Some argued Megan's behavior showed years of resentment boiling over into violence. Others claimed the chaotic home and Konrad's alcoholism had created an environment where tragedy felt inevitable. For investigators, however, the focus was clear. Konrad had been doused with a caustic chemical, and Megan was the one who poured it. Her upcoming trial would determine not just her guilt, but also what punishment, if any, she should face for a crime that left her father dead. After Konrad's death, prosecutors escalated the case. Megan wasn't just facing an assault charge anymore. She was charged with second-degree murder, a crime that carries up to life in prison in Michigan. On paper, she could have spent decades, even her entire life, behind bars. In court, prosecutors presented their case: a bottle of lye recovered from the basement, residue on the couch where Konrad collapsed, and medical evidence showing the chemical burns directly caused his death. Jurors heard about the days leading up to the attack. Witnesses recalled Megan's anger when her father refused to give her money. Friends testified about texts where she admitted throwing things at him. Doctors described how the lye destroyed his airway, kidneys, and skin, injuries that made survival impossible. The defense countered by stressing Megan's age and unstable home life. They claimed Konrad's alcoholism contributed to the tragedy, even suggesting he might have exposed himself to the chemical. They asked the jury to see her as a teenager lashing out, not a cold-blooded killer. But prosecutors pointed to her own words. First, she denied throwing anything. Then she admitted tossing bread. Later, she conceded she poured liquid, but minimized the danger. These contradictions painted her as unreliable. Family testimony carried heavy weight. Austin described finding his father burned and barely alive. Julie shared how she tried to prepare their home for Konrad's hospice return, only to lose him days later. When closing arguments ended, the question wasn't guilt, it was punishment. Prosecutors asked for 7 years. Defense argued for leniency. The judge's decision stunned observers. Instead of life in prison, instead of 7 years, Megan received 1 year in jail, credited as time served, plus 5 years of probation. Conditions included earning her GED, a 9 p.m. curfew, and wearing an ankle monitor. For many, it was unthinkable. A father dead from chemical burns, and his daughter walking free after just a year. The sentence landed like a shockwave. Megan had faced the possibility of life in prison, yet she walked away with probation. Public reaction was immediate and divided. Many saw it as a miscarriage of justice, arguing that Konrad's suffering demanded far more than a symbolic punishment. Social media filled with outrage, calling the outcome a betrayal of his memory. Others, though, believed the court had made the right call. They saw Megan as a damaged teen from a fractured family, someone who needed guidance, not decades in a cell. Despite the anger, Megan walked out of custody a free woman. Her probation came with restrictions, finishing her education, following a nightly curfew, and wearing an ankle monitor. These measures were meant to keep her under control, but they didn't erase the fact that she had avoided prison. By 2024, reports confirmed she had even married, moving forward with her life while her father's remained tragically cut short. For the family, healing was impossible. Austin, the son who found Konrad in agony, carries memories no sentence could erase. Julie, who tended to Konrad in his final days, saw her daughter return to society while her husband was gone forever. And that's the heart of the debate. Was justice served? Did the court show mercy to a misguided teenager? Or did it minimize the value of a man's life? Konrad lost everything: his future, his dignity, his life. Megan lost a year, then gained a second chance. The contrast is haunting. She once faced life in prison. Instead, she walked free. Was that an act of mercy or a mistake? Let me know what you think in the comments. Was justice served or was it denied? And if you want more true crime stories like this one, don't forget to subscribe.